Kalalau Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai Bahashem, Raha Kodash. Double honors to the elders of GMS who rule well, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel Barakatah. Today's lesson, polygamy according to the scriptures. Now, polygamy, according to Google's online definition, means the practice or custom of having more than one wife or husband at the same time. The only difference to this online statement is that a woman will have only one man and not several baby daddies as many have now. Polygamy came to be illegal and outlawed due to the 1882 Edmunds Act. But it says polygamy was outlawed in federal territories by the 1882 Edmunds Act, and there are laws against the practice in all 50 states, as well as the District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico. Because state laws exist, polygamy is not actively prosecuted at the federal level. And when it comes to the so-called Puerto Ricans, the government knows that they are a fruitful tribe when it comes to having many children. The so-called Puerto Ricans, aka Ephraim, are a fruitful nation. That's why in the 1950s, the so-called Puerto Rican women were coerced into sterilization and used as test subjects in developing the modern birth control pill. Let's go over to that article. Here we have that article from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, that says eugenics and reproductive coercion in Puerto Rico. It goes on to say, starting in the 1950s, Puerto Rican women were coerced into sterilization and used as test subjects in developing the modern birth control pill. So there you have it, birth control pills, at the expense of experimenting on those Puerto Rican women. They were targeted primarily due to issues of eugenics and were not given much, if any, information about either la operación, which means the operation, or the pill, and written off as unreliable when describing serious side effects. And everything that these medical doctors do and these medicines that they prescribe give you side effects. Ana Maria Garcia's 1981 film, La Operación, tells the story of the women subject to these programs, which resulted in a third of all Puerto Rican women having been surgically sterilized. Now, I'm not going to click on the film and include it upon the lesson because they always claim that it's copyright when I put these videos up. But if you are interested, I'll leave the address on the description box below. But further reading says, author Chiara Alegria Hudez wrote in a piece in The Nation about her own grandmother's coerced sterilization found here. Dartmouth's journals featured an article discussing both the Puerto Rican case and sterilizations in Los Angeles, highlighted in No Más Bebés, right, which that means no more babies. Finally, the Dig History podcast looks at the wider history of sterilization in Latinx women, including Chicanas, and the important colonial context. Find that episode here. Now you could go here and look it up for yourselves. But the government itself knows that the so-called Puerto Ricans are of the fruitful tribe of Ephraim. The people themselves are the ones who do not know. And those 800 Hebrew stones that they found of the famous Taino Aguaybana prove that the so-called Puerto Ricans are of the tribe of Ephraim. But when it comes to all this coercion and sterilization of our people, that goes into that scripture of Psalms 83, 3 and 4, which goes on to say that they have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Verse 4 also goes on to say, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. All that they have done against our people will come back upon them, because the scripture of Ecclesiastes 3 and 15 says that the Lord requires that which is past. So judgment is coming onto these nations, especially onto Esau, Edom. But the higher-ups of society know that the so-called Puerto Ricans are of the fruitful tribe of Ephraim. And did not the Lord say to be fruitful and multiply upon the scripture of Genesis 1 and 28? That goes to show you that when it comes to this evil empire that we have here established today, they don't go according to biblical prophecy. They go against it. But when it comes to the wicked of the earth, they had other plans according to this article of coercion and of sterilization. And when it comes to this wicked way of life, polygamy is illegal and not accepted. Remember that the wicked of the earth do everything contrary to biblical scripture. Also remember what the scripture of Isaiah 5 and 20 has said. They call evil good and good evil. And this wicked kingdom is not in Israel's true rest. Look at the women right now. They are struggling to get mates, to get partners, due to their attitudes and high standards. And that's due to this current worldly wicked system of Edom, which also allowed the establishment of feminism. Feminism has destroyed a lot of households. And just look at what this article says. Modern feminism undermines family foundations. Modern feminism promised empowerment, but instead it delivered loneliness, broken families, and spiritual confusion. That's right. And that's so true, because women are now complaining that they cannot find good partners. Right, because a high majority of women are also in that bad boy mentality. That bad boy mentality is played out. The grand prize in these times will be a man in biblical scripture. When it comes to polygamy, the Bible itself has prophesied that in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man. Isaiah 4 and 1. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Right. And this scripture of Isaiah 4 and 1, this talks about now, because the women will want to have that overall protection from the great tribulation that shall take place on this side. 7 women is a number of completion, but an Israelite man will have more than 7 women. Now, many women shall be rejected on that day, but the Akwath that are turning their life around and listening to the men of the Lord will eventually get out of that Western mentality and be part of the elect. The scripture of 2 John 1 and 1 does speak about the elect lady and her children. But when it comes to this wicked way of life, it teaches you that polygamy is illegal and that it should not be accepted. The Lord said upon the scripture of Jeremiah 10 and 2, to learn not the way of the heathen. Look at the life of King Solomon. He loved many strange women, according to the scripture of 1 Kings 11:1 and 1 through 3. King Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and he was a king. And those women were well taken care of. King David himself had multiple wives and concubines. And look at the life of Jacob. He himself had 4 wives. Jacob had 12 sons with his 4 wives, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Silpah. Now, people may oppose the biblical ways of the Lord and do contrary to biblical scripture when it comes to this wicked kingdom of Esau, but that's not going to stop the Lord's righteous ways from flourishing and coming to pass. But it's just as the scripture has said, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of 1 man. This is getting ready to happen real soon on this side. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. So in other words, let us have your name and to be pregnant by you, you see? Now when it comes to the kingdom of heaven, that's to be established and built here on earth, those Israelite men will have multiple wives, and in the process, they shall have many children. That's why the scripture of Isaiah 60 and verse 22 has said that a little one shall become 1,000. Here we have that scripture of Isaiah 60 and 22. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. Right, a little one shall become 1,000 due to all the sex with multiple wives. Israel shall be like the sands of the seas, meaning vast in numbers. And a small one, a strong nation, due to the vast amounts of children that will be born. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. And this will take place before the kingdom and in the kingdom that's to be built here on earth. So polygamy is biblical. It's scriptural. So no matter how many people oppose the biblical ways of the Lord, it's not going to stop his ways from flourishing. You see? At the end, all shall be fulfilled and restored according to his will. Not our will, his will. The scripture of Isaiah 55 and 11 does say that the word that goeth forth out of his mouth shall not return unto him void. It's all according to the Lord's will. And while many of these heathen nations are trying to stop prophecy, you cannot. You cannot box with the Most High. That's a losing battle. Now, just imagine a husband telling a wife nowadays that she is his possession. That wife of that man shall lose it, being in that wicked westernized mentality. But the scriptures do speak about that. In Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 36 and 24, he that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. And let me also say this, there's no continuation of husband and wife when it comes to heaven or that spiritual realm. And there is no sex or pregnant angels in heaven. Angels do not have sex because that is a glory of the terrestrial body and not of the celestial body. Marriage is sex and will be in the kingdom, and that's a glory of the terrestrial body. But being fruitful and multiplying makes a race even stronger in numbers. And that's one of the reasons why they have this prolonged war in Ukraine, to weaken the Russians. It's not going to happen. That Vladimir Putin is a smart man. Plus, the Lord is guiding his hand because he has prophecy to fulfill in the coming of the West and the destroying of Babylon the Great. But being fruitful and multiplying makes a race even stronger in numbers. Why do you think the Chinese are strong when it comes to military numbers? They went from being farmers to a great military power due to their numbers. That army of farmers grew into a formidable modern-day force. But they're not going to rule next. The ones that shall rule next in a righteous kingdom are the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Tainos, and Native American Indians. You are the 12 tribes of Israel. And when it comes to Israel, they shall colonize other mansions, which speaks of planets. And Israel shall be like the sands of the seas, vast in numbers. That's why the scripture of Isaiah 60 and 20 once again said, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, will hasten it in his time. You see? But with that being said, Kaulalal Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of Jemaster Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah. Shalom.